The thoughts, opinions, and general overall shade thrown on High at 9 News are those of the individual speakers and not those of High at 9 News, its audience, or its advertisers. The statements made do not constitute medical, legal, or financial advice, and for advice tailored to your specific situation, please consult with a licensed professional. Welcome to the High at 9 News Hour, where you will hear from cannabis industry experts and professionals from around the country talk about important topics while shining light on global issues and discussing cannabis as it relates to politics, regulation and reform, data and technology, science, research and medicine, family and parenting, art, celebrities and entertainment, fitness, sports, mental health and wellness, and plant-based medicines and entheogenics. Together, we are building a stronger community, fighting the stigma and creating change. With your hosts, Jason Beck and Rico Lamitte, joined by special industry expert correspondents from around the country, and daily antics brought to you by Cannabis. Coming to you live every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific Time and high noon on the East Coast. And thank you all for getting high at 9 with us. Oh, yeah. Good morning, everybody. That's right. It is Thursday, May 23rd, and today is National Taffy Day, as well as
Laffy Taffy.
Laffy Taffy, yeah. What's that little song
Shake
that goes with it? There you go. There you go. It's your Laffy Taffy. With your Laffy Taffy. Yes. You know what else it is,
Shake
Rico?
that Laffy Taffy.
Exactly. It's also National Lucky Penny Day. And I don't think they're talking about Penny Hardaway.
Wow, wow.
Just saying. Thank you all for joining us and getting high at 9 with us. It's also high noon on the East Coast. And please remember to like, share, and subscribe to us on all social media platforms. You can look up above on your screen to see exactly where we live on the internet. And we are live every Monday through Friday on YouTube, Rumble, Twitch, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and on our very own website at www.highat9news.com. But kicking it off first, that's right, it is the dope dad himself, Mr. Rico Lamitte, the happy cabbage specialist who is constantly doing the running man when he's on calls with clients. That's right, it is none other than Mr. Rico Lamitte.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Look at that, bro. You got your claps in.
I got my what?
You got your claps in. You hear that?
Yeah, man.
Yeah, look at
That's
that.
what I'm saying, man.
Mm-hmm.
It's a live studio audience that I feel the love from every day.
Love
We
it.
get up every morning and do what we do. But
Yes.
thank you, Jason. Good morning, everybody. It's amazing to witness in real time, to experience how far that we have come over the last decade with the normalization and broad social acceptance of cannabis. And not just as Americans, the movement has been worldwide. Take High at 9 News, for example. If anybody told me 5 years ago about an hour-long daily news show covering multiple headlines focused on cannabis-related news stories, I would have laughed you out of the room. But here we are. And there's never a shortage of fresh material for us to sift through each morning when the team picks the headlines that they believe matter the most. That being said, the illegal and racist war on drugs is now pretty much universally accepted as a failure that did more harm than help. And more people than ever today have access to accredited studies touting the medical, social, and cultural benefits of cannabis. A huge pivot away from the reefer madness bullshit that has dominated for nearly a century. However, due to the same 24-hour news cycle that gives us an insatiable thirst for clickbaity articles with vague headlines and a failure to dig deeper into who's behind this article or what special interest group is funding that one, the algorithms go crazy promoting polarizing shit because it sells. Which is why it should come to no surprise to anybody that one of the biggest stories to hit this week, with most outlets, mainstream and underground, giving their own take on it, is my headline: Daily marijuana use outpaces daily drinking in the U.S., a new study says. I chose the Associated Press's version because all the others I came across and ended up reading were a lot more heavily slanted to one side or the other. So AP's Carla K. Johnson reported that for the first time, the number of Americans who use marijuana just about every day has surpassed the number who drink that often, a shift some 40 years in the making as recreational pot use became more mainstream and legal in nearly half of U.S. states. In 2022, an estimated 17.7 million people reported using marijuana daily or near daily, compared to 14.7 million daily or near daily drinkers, according to analysis of national survey data. In 1992, when daily pot use hit a low point, less than 1 million people said that they used marijuana nearly every day. Alcohol is still more widely used, but 2022 was the first time this intensive level of marijuana use overtook daily and nearly daily drinking, said the study's author, Jonathan Calkins, a cannabis policy researcher at Carnegie Mellon University. A good 40% of cannabis users are using it daily or near daily, a pattern that is more associated with tobacco use than typical alcohol use, Calkins said. The research, based on the data from the National Survey on Drug Use and Health, was published Wednesday in the National Journal of Addiction. The survey is highly regarded as a source of self-reported estimates of tobacco, alcohol, and drug use in the United States. You can head to high9news.com for links to the study, or just Google Cannabis News Today, and you'll find no shortage of outlets giving their take on what the data means, and you can dive deeper if you want to. I'm not going to do that right now. But to me, finding this AP version that I'd say is more balanced than any of the others that I found, is still striking a negative tone by insinuating cannabis is just another vice Americans are wasting money on now that tobacco fad is finally dying out. Why not highlight the positive news that Americans are now consuming more medicine than poison? Why not focus on the data now supporting the fact that we're choosing to live healthier lives and consuming substances that chill us the fuck out, rather than encouraging bad choices and violence? When the moneybags behind the scenes cherry-pick studies like these to promote and feed to mainstream news outlets and their algorithms with the aim of making us worry about the inevitable negative effects of marijuana taking over all aspects of our life, it makes me love and appreciate what we do here at High at 9 News that much more. When I first saw this study emerge a few days ago, I was like, duh, pretty much a non-story in my opinion. But now that the coverage has grown from obscure medical blogs and small cannabis-focused websites to ABC News, Fox, The Guardian, and every other Bilderberg-controlled entity, I knew it was time for us to give the most balanced take, given the diverse personal and professional backgrounds of the correspondents on our show every single day. That being said, more cannabis is being consumed daily now than alcohol, a day we all knew was coming for years and that I believe should be celebrated. I want to hear what everyone else has to say on this one. I'm Rico Lamitte, the dopest dad on the street for High 9 News. Let's talk about it, man.
Yes, this is great news. This is great news. I mean,
should be celebrated. Yeah. This is America's new vice. Fuck out of here. This is the new age, thinly veiled reefer madness.
Exactly right.
I couldn't agree with you more, Rico. I loved your take on it. I mean, you hit the nail on the head there. And I cringe every time I do hear the comparisons to alcohol. I mean, to alcohol and especially tobacco. But you're right. We should be celebrating. This is that many more Americans now choosing a cleaner way, a cleaner path than what we have been before, and it should be celebrated.
So you're saying.
I think harm reduction is something that we should bring out and talk about openly, because alcohol is a poison and cannabis is not. That's basically a starting point. But what more evidence do these policymakers need to understand that you cannot enforce a prohibition against cannabis today because way too many people use it? They're going to waste resources, and as we've seen, they're going to be the wrong people going to jail for this shit. And we need to back away from an enforcement model and look at more of a harm reduction and health model, and recognize that this country breeds a lot of despair, and smoking a joint helps with that. It's safer than fentanyl or coke or meth.
Weed is safer than fentanyl. We should put that on a t-shirt.
Yes. Yeah, I'm high.
Right?
At least it ain't fentanyl.
Exactly, right?
Over it.
I'd rather get high than die. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, that's a good one too, Stone. Man.
I just think it's fascinating, man. It really is just to witness this plant that never should have been made illegal finally gaining social acceptance this wide despite the century of damage inflicted by the prohibitionist policies. So whether you partake or not, it's just interesting to see how our vices evolve with time and policy.
I mean, I think you could.
What about you, Elise? What are your thoughts?
I agree with everything that's been said. Alcohol is a cancerous neurotoxin that destroys lives. And cannabis is an herbal remedy that is an exit drug and has helped many people get away from alcoholism and addiction. And not saying that alcohol should be illegal, but cannabis should not be compared to alcohol nor tobacco, in my opinion. It should be more compared to all of the other like nootropics and herbal supplements that are out there that you can take, again, in my opinion.
I agree with you. It should be treated more as like a nutraceutical.
Yeah.
Over the counter.
We still have this legacy, though, from, and this is at the turn of the 20th century, where Protestants primarily, but they were strict prohibitionists that took over and drove the restrictions of all sorts of substances, including alcohol, morphine, things like that. We haven't lost that. And still the thought that you take something that's intoxicating is immoral, it's sinful, it's bad. We need to get rid of that shit. You know, erase it from the blackboard and leave it alone. Because using something that's intoxicating is not a sin, it's not amoral. And we need to, you know, get far away from that, because that was the excuse they used. You're being a bad person by doing these things. We're going to punish you. And the response is, yeah, go fuck yourself. It's safer than drinking. And my family sold alcohol and sold tobacco, so I get it. You know, we made money off that stuff without concerns of the health. But nowadays, the health of people who use these different substances, you should be your own best doctor. Look at what's best for you and use the things that make you better. And, you know, the rest of the world trying to tell you you're bad, tell them to go f themselves. Not their business.
That's right. And on that, I think we should just keep this train rolling and roll right into a commercial, because Dale has already contributed to the cup today.
Tip jar.
Yeah, tip jar. Shout out Dale. Yeah. Yes.
Let's get our merch going. Let's print up them shirts.
Let's get it. Let's get it rolling.
We're dropping slogans here.
Yeah, we're going to roll right into a commercial. We're going to be right back.
Oh man, that was weird. Hey, you America. Do I look like Sean Connery? Good morning, America. Saman Razani coming to you live from sunny Los Angeles, California, with the one and only highest host, Mr. Jason Beck, smoking on the best weed in the world. Did you know that we have an audio-only version of our podcast? You can find it on Apple, Google, Amazon, iHeartRadio, and Spotify. No excuses in 2024. If you haven't checked us out, check it out now. And also, check out what the Prophet's doing in 2024.
Up next, he smokes the best weed in the world, is known for being the highest Republican in every room that he walks into. He's looking so smooth these days because he just dropped about 800 pounds.
70.
He's coming to you straight from our live studio in Long Beach. Jason Beck.
Oh, yeah. Good morning, Rico. Hope you all are having a great day today. Oh, man, do I have a story for you guys. Because, Rico, you know, there was no way I was going to allow you to just do a good story and not have a follow-up story that just, you know, triggers somebody or something or whatnot.
You got to have balance, right?
That's right. That's right. We're fair and balanced over here. That's right, because you're going to love this, Rico, because the state suspends new cannabis business leases as lawmakers grill Governor Hochul's nominees. State senators grilled the acting chief of the State Dormitory Authority about the terms of a high-interest cannabis business loan program recently exposed by the city as part of his confirmation hearing on Tuesday. While the authority says it's suspending new deals, Governor Kathy Hochul appointed Robert Rodriguez, formerly New York Secretary of State, as acting president of the Dormitory Authority last month. The governor had put the agency, which typically finances public construction projects like schools and hospitals, in charge of creating a $200 million cannabis social equity fund that would be used to lease and construct 150 cannabis dispensaries for licenses impacted by drug convictions. Licenses matched to dispensaries leased and built out by the state were required to use loans from the Cannabis Fund to cover the costs of the renovations, which they had no control over. Borrowers, attorneys, and state sources had told the city the state loans were virtually impossible to pay off. Thanks to unrealistic projections for sales of illegal marijuana products and inflated construction costs, the state contributed $50 million to the Cannabis Fund and eventually approved up to $150 million from Chicago Atlantic, a private equity investment fund, last June. The terms of the Chicago Atlantic lending the Cannabis Fund money were kept secret despite requests from lawmakers and public records requests until the city obtained a late draft of the document last month, you guys. That's right. At Tuesday's hearing, senators led by Liz Krueger, Democrat from Manhattan, an architect of the 2021 cannabis legalization law, and Gustavo Ramiro, Democrat from the Bronx, used the confirmation hearing as an opportunity to press Rodriguez about the details of the Cannabis Fund, questioning whether its deal with Chicago Atlantic is fair for the retail licenses. In quotes, people are arguing, including people who went into these deals, and they will never have the revenue to pay back their loan, Krueger said. She pointed to some of the terms of the agreement reported by the city, including how a licensee can be removed from its dispensary location for late payments. In a quote, that's a fairly radical action compared to what would happen if you were late on your mortgage for your home. You know, for instance, in I think most business in most business fields. Do you happen to know whether that information is correct? Krueger questioned. And in an answer, I'll have to look into that, Rodriguez responded. Krueger also asked Rodriguez to confirm whether it was true that if the licenses fail and default on their loans to the fund, the state would still be on the hook for the payments. The city first reported the state's liability in the agreement with the private equity firm. Chicago Atlantic would actually still hold the state of New York responsible for continuing to completely pay back the total loan. Is that your understanding? The state senator asked. Rodriguez didn't have a clear response to that question either, and the loan program has already drawn scrutiny from state legislators, including Assembly Majority Leader Crystal Peoples-Stokes, Democrat from Buffalo, who raised concerns about the high construction costs of the dispensary build-outs. Krueger and Riviera both raised the build-out expenses to Rodriguez as well, and the acting dormitory authority president told the committee that the expenses related to the construction have been verified by third parties and that they've tried to secure lower costs. That's something that we continue to evaluate for the upcoming stores as well, he added. Riviera asked Rodriguez for a commitment to running the loan program in an equitable way. And in a quote, I just want to make sure we're on the record, the senator said, that the role your agency will play in this process is making sure that these folks get the economic support that they require from the fund that was created specifically for this purpose. Krueger told the New York Post on Monday that the dormitory authority is no longer issuing loans through the Cannabis Fund, and during the hearing, Krueger said this information may have changed, and she had heard that the Cannabis Fund operators were considering a new model. Jeffrey Gordon, a spokesperson for the Dormitory Authority, said that Dansky will stop seeking out leases or overseeing construction of any dispensaries. So far, the fund has signed 24 leases. From now on, the Cannabis Fund will only lease dispensary locations already acquired by Chicago Atlantic to potential leases. And in quotes, the transaction is from the lease side of the Social Equity Investment Fund program to the purchase side of the program. Gordon wrote in a statement to the city during the hearing. Krueger clarified that she was using the opportunity to get answers to questions about the conditional use retail dispensary loan program and that she didn't expect Rodriguez to have every answer immediately. In a quote, My purpose in asking all of these without the answers is I very much hope you know the answers very soon, she added. I don't wish us to continue with a very, very questionable model that's not in the interest of our current applicants or the state of New York. Man, oh man, oh man, New York is just the gift that keeps on giving. All of a sudden, there was no money in this CURD fund. Now, all of a sudden, they seem to have some money, but they're going to stop doing everything. And the dormitory situation is just, New York, you guys have fouled this at every single opportunity you guys get to mess your program up. And I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say about this. Rico, it looks like we found the $200 million. What do you have to say about this?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, right?
At least they dodged a bullet with Puffy getting caught.
Oh, man.
Ain't out there, too.
Man, oh, man, oh,
Jeez,
man.
This is, like you said, man, New York is just a gift that keeps on giving. And it's like, these poor people, man. It's the same shit that happened everywhere else, but it's just expedited. This is a New York minute.
This is
expedited out there in New York. They're getting bamboozled just like we did. These lawsuits are crazy, and just follow the money. You have the cannabis officials that they can't even answer questions right. Then you took out the guy they took out last week. He was the scapegoat. Like this is Kathy Hochul's fault.
Yeah. It is. This is all Kathy Hochul's fault. I totally agree with you on that. This is totally her blunder. To me, she has major egg on her face, and she doesn't even go into dispensaries and buy a souvenir ashtray or anything.
Nothing.
Yeah,
I don't know, man.
But yeah, she stands firm in her commitment.
Blame like Cuomo, the people who came in before her. Like, no, these are all your people.
Exactly.
And it was never set up properly. The right people weren't put in place.
And if I remember correctly, when she came in, there was a lot of deviations that she created that went against the program that Cuomo had created.
Cuomo didn't really create much. I want to say like he wanted to give it to the deep pocketed people. Remember, he wanted to give it to like big industry.
That's right.
Initially, and then he had that he lost the right to do that. There's a big celebration from that, and then he had the big it was a sexual harassment and scandal. He ended up leaving. But this is Kathy Hochul. This is all her people she put in place. This is her initiative that she put forward, and it's been a mess from the jump.
Seems so long ago that they were all talking that we're going to do this better than California shit, and now watch us keep going. Is anybody else getting like mafia fucking vibes from the dormitory authority in Chicago Atlantic? Like, do these guys work in waste management consulting with Tony Soprano?
Yes.
They'll do your build out for $500,000.
Yeah, you know, Dale, that's an interesting point. I found that extremely amusing that they were that now that they're only going to put these into buildings that the fund already owns. Okay, and then on top of it, it sounds like they're doing their whole design and build out. It doesn't sound to me as though that the licensee is going to have any say so at all in their design or build out. It sounds like these firms are going to do it all and then just stick the licensees with the bill, having to pay it back.
Well, they haven't learned. They haven't brought in people who know about financing and be honest and put their cards on the table. And the situations I run into in California is that social equity people are taken advantage of. That's the predominant theme. They don't understand this, and I've spent a lot of hours trying to educate my clients that this is complex, and they'll give you money, but then it's like now you've got conditions to pay it back they didn't understand, and the system doesn't have equity when they want their money back. And why would the state of New York be the guarantor for all this shit? Some of this stuff is just hard to understand. And in California, it's high 6 to low 7 figures to build out a dispensary.
Yeah, right.
I mean, whether you like it or not, that's what it turns out to be. And understanding that New York's not any cheaper. I mean, it's just amazing why you can't bring real estate finance people together and put your cards on the table. What are your goals? And draft it in front of the public to meet your goals. It's sneaky.
I would think that for all this, the cost would be super overinflated because they're going to make you use union labor for all of these construction jobs and bids and whatnot, because that's how New York operates. And and that you already know that that's just going to increase the cost that someone would do it if they were to privately do their own build out. I mean, MedMen, when they first started, they on average said that they spent $500,000 on each build out of each store location.
Well, that's the build outs. That's not counting.
That's no inventory. That's no staff. That's no nothing. That's just build out.
Yeah. We're looking at a million plus just for a small dispensary when all the damage is done and you start selling your first product. And knowing that, and New York's a lot like California, more expensive than it needs to be. Why can't they sit down and be honest with people, and have built in the system a fudge factor for people coming in as equity applicants that don't understand finance, don't really get all this stuff, and build in the system some equity for them, rather than making sure people are making money off this. Don't be mistaken. This is a bucket full of water that, we laugh, some spills. No, this fucking bucket's a sieve, and it's going into somebody's pocket somewhere.
Exactly.
What perplexes me is the financial capital of the world. You guys didn't do your due diligence before you put these people in charge.
Right?
$150 million. Why wasn't that put in escrow, like publicly viewable? Where'd the money go?
I feel like they just had who can fleece our social equity applicants the most, and that's who they put in these positions. Yep. And on that,
if you're a policymaker and you ask a question and you don't get an answer, there's a problem there.
Exactly.
If you're the one making these policies and you call up and go, I don't know, let me check into it. Bullshit. You should know this off the top of your head and not show up and play games with people.
Dale, you bring that up. This reminds me a lot of the story that we covered last week in regards to the budget in California, and when they were when senators and assembly members were asking questions on the Budget Finance Committee in regards to where is this money going during the audit, and they couldn't justify where large chunks of money had been spent at, and this is just the same thing. This is California, New York, same situation, same problem, just a little bit different with a little bit of twist.
A few thousand miles apart.
Yep.
Remember when New York was the promised land, though? Stone said they were going to do it better than us. Shout out to all my friends who moved to New York and told me to move to New York to start a brand. Hope that's working out for you.
I think New York has done it better than anyone else, because they are the true definition of a free and open market right now, currently.
I don't know, man. You think it's better than Oklahoma?
Yeah, because there's more money in New York than there is in Oklahoma. So yes.
No one's done it right yet.
Oh yeah, and on that, we're going to keep this train rolling. We're going to roll right into Mr. Attorney Dale Schafer. He's the founder of Armada Law Practice, and at one point in time, he did some time for a cannabis crime. That's right. It is none other than Mr. Attorney at Law, Mr. Dale Schafer.
Hi. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. My story today comes out of Tennessee and involves something we've talked about multiple times on the show, the definition of hemp, and how ludicrous it's turned out to be. It also involves execution of search warrants and how do you handle property you've seized and things like that. But we're going to go to Tennessee. We have a complaint that just got filed by 5 retail stores that sold tobacco and hemp products, and a wholesaler who apparently was involved with all these, and I think they're all interrelated companies. And the complaint goes to the history of the hemp bill and what Tennessee did with hemp-derived cannabinoids. Okay, and this is the term they use, and they keep coming up with new words for all this shit, and it's hard to keep up with. But it turns out that the metric they use is the 0.3% THC, Delta 9 THC, and that's hemp. They had subsequent hearings on the hemp bill out of Tennessee. They identified all these different cannabinoids, which includes THCA and Delta 8 and Delta 10 and all sorts of them. But they still left the metric at 0.3% THC, Delta 9 THC. And this has been a problem for me since Raphael Mechoulam found THC, I think in 1963. They haven't really changed their understanding of what this plant produces in intoxicating cannabinoids. if I'm reading between the tea leaves here, these companies were selling hemp flower with 0.3% THC or less, but it had a shitload of THCA in it. And for those who don't understand this, THC is the precursor to delta-9 THC. It's an acid, which means it has a CO and an OH group, and naturally the CO goes off. It's called decarboxylation, and now you have delta-9. Okay? So they were using this definition of it's got to be 0.3% or less of delta-9 THC, and sort of ignoring that THCA is the precursor. As soon as you heat it up in a bowl and smoke it, it turns into THC. Oh, that's the game that's being played here. And it seems that a DA, police chief, and some other high-ranking law enforcement officials got search warrants for these five retail stores. Not the wholesale company, but the 5 retail stores. And the complaint says they didn't say anything about hemp in these warrants, okay? So the cops show up at these retail stores, and someone makes a decision, I think it was the DA that was there on site, that these warrants cover these hemp products. And it seems that they had some testing strips or some portable testing equipment that could test positive for THC, but didn't differentiate between THCA and THC, and it couldn't tell you the levels of THC, which is required for hemp versus marijuana. And it seems like we have the Keystone cops here on the ground executing a search warrant against a company that doesn't have anything to do with hemp in the warrant. And that's where it starts to get even more interesting, because when it comes to a warrant, you can go to the places listed in the warrant and you can seize the things listed in the warrant. And then if you view illegal conduct from a lawful vantage point while you're executing a search warrant, you can then go investigate that and potentially seize it if you determine that it's illegal. And that's where the pissing match starts, because these cops had some portable device that they claim, oh, this is positive for THC, we're going to take all your hemp. They then went to the wholesale place, which was in a different location, had a door between it, which was locked. They went in there and decided they had huge safes full of flour, hemp flour, which I'm assuming were heavy with THCA, but had enough THC, delta-9, to qualify them as hemp. And the DA decided, if you don't open those safes up, the fire department's coming, we're going to bust them open and take all your shit. So they opened it up. They complained, we got COAs here. It's less than 3% THC, blah, 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 blah. The DA didn't care. They took over $1 million worth of hemp flour, or what I'm going to say is heavy THCA hemp flour, which is basically weed. Let's stop playing games here. Okay. Now, this happened on May 9th, and very rapidly they went and filed this complaint and said, hey, we need an injunction to stop this, because what they understand is if you store THCA for any length of time, unless it's very cold and no UV light, it decomposes into delta-9. So it's not going to take long before this is not hemp anymore, and it's weed, and they know that the clock is ticking. So they want the court to step in and issue an order that if you don't give it back to us, we want you to store it properly, or they know it's going to turn into delta-9 THC and be an illegal product. So now we have the big issues in this. What's the definition of hemp versus marijuana, which is unclear? If you have a search warrant and what you seize is not on the warrant, then it's per se unconstitutional unless you can show exigent circumstances. And these buildings weren't going anywhere. The cops were there. They could have reapplied for a warrant from a judge or an amendment to the warrant to take stuff if they wanted to, which they didn't want to. You can't test for THC levels on the scene with the portable equipment they had, so there's got to be more done to be able to determine is this legal or non-legal. And then what obligations does the government have when they take your shit to store it so they don't ruin it? And all these are going to be part of this case going forward, and we'll follow it. But this may be one of those cases where we have to face the ugly truth that the definitions for hemp are stupid. And they need to revisit them, because there's so many loopholes here that the rule really doesn't make a lot of sense anymore. So that's my story for them. Throw it back at you guys. What do y'all think about this? And it's Delta 8-2 Stone, so there's that one out there.
So here's the question. Because we all know that THCA, if left in high heat areas, like you leave it in a hot car, that can cause the THC levels to rise, so that it would not meet the muster of the Farm Bill. Do you think that they are trying to set these guys up by holding on to some evidence and then testing it maybe a day or two later, and so it would show a higher result? Dale?
I don't think they're that sophisticated.
I do.
Yeah, I was going to say, Elise, I've represented a lot of cops before, and organic chemistry was not on their list of classes that they were required to take.
Yeah, they're about to get lucky. They're about to get lucky with this move, and it's going to turn into what they thought it was.
Mm-hmm.
But they have COAs for all the product. So if the COA says before you took it, it was at less than 0.3, now the cops have a problem. No one got charged with a crime here. That's what's unusual. There was no forfeiture action. No one got charged with a crime.
So
here.
Then it was just a robbery. It's just a robbery then, right, Dale?
Yeah, that's what the sovereign citizens say. It don't work very well.
Yeah, that's what I would say.
They had a warrant. They had a warrant. That warrant may be deficient,
traveling,
and all that kind of stuff. And I think they're going to be paying a lot of money for this. But
Dale, in this, did they when you get raided by law enforcement, they have to leave a receipt of everything that they took. Do you know if this was a detailed receipt? Because I know a lot of the times I've had receipts, it'll just say green leafy substance. They won't quantify any weights or anything. Do you know if that was done in this situation?
The complaint says it was a vague list. Now, they had the inventory. They knew exactly what they took because it had been inventoried. They had COAs for everything. So owners of these businesses know, but what they got back from the warrant was vague. And one of these warrants, the cops wouldn't execute against hemp because they said hemp's not on the warrant. We're not going to take your hemp. So it just gets more confusing as you look at the Keystone Cop routine here that went on.
Mm-hmm. So now, Dale, would the people have a lawsuit against law enforcement if they did hold on to this stuff too long and it did get hot and it did all of a sudden start to test hot and prior to it tested fine? Would the people just in general be able to file a lawsuit against the police department for that?
Well, you can file a lawsuit for anything. The problem is, how do you prevail? And that's one of the issues here, is that what obligation does the government have when they seize your property to protect it? Okay. And I've written in contracts here in California that if you take my weed as a distributor and you don't take care of it properly and it decomposes and has problems, the obligation's on the distributor. There's no such obligations on the cops. They took my weed and 4 or 5 years later drug it out in a plastic bag and said, here's your weed. Well, thank God I didn't want to smoke it anymore because you kind of ruined it. And they don't care. They'll throw it into a room with the lights on and it's 85 degrees in there and accelerate.
Let me ask you this. In this case, since they have the COAs, can they use that then to be like, when this does convert to Delta 9, can they be like, that's not what you took from my place? I don't know where you got that. My COA says this is what you took from my place, and that's not what that is.
That's going to be hard to prove. I suspect
that these cases tend to get settled quietly, okay? Because the cops, they get sued for 1983 actions and under color of authority, you do all these kind of things to people. And it turns out that in the final analysis, the cop got both feet on their wang, and someone steps in to go, okay, let's settle this and let's get some NDAs and this and confidential agreements and we'll get it to go away because we don't want any precedent set here. That's what I expect will happen. But it's going to be publicly in the courts, and I want to see what the cops have to say to defend themselves. Do they think they have any obligation to protect someone's valuable, spoilable product when you take it without a warrant?
I agree, and I agree with Isaac Cruz in this. He says it's a robbery by land pirates. You guys.
Smash and grab.
Exactly, smash and grab. And
but they got guns and badges, man.
They got guns and badges, and they smash and grab. And on that, we're going to smash and grab, and we're going to roll right into a commercial and be right back. The Control Tower from Highly Educated has perfected the dab. Utilizing the concept of thin film evaporation, you can waste none of it and taste all of it. The micro texture of the SE pillar increases nucleation at elevated temperatures. And with the tower propelling at 2,600 RPMs, it's certainly the most efficient dab experience to date. It's the control tower from Highly Educated. All right, stop whatever you're doing. Make sure that you hit that like button. I know we'll appreciate it, you'll appreciate it, and you too will appreciate it. Also, make sure that whatever you do, you also are subscribed to the channel, and all of the articles that we cover on today's show you can read directly on our website at www.high9news.com. I'm Jason Beck, and this is Smoky Vanilla. And if you want to feel as good as I look, then you need to get a stretch and smoke with Smoky Vanilla.
Hi, I'm Smoky Vanilla. I have my bachelor's degree in kinesiology, and I'm a sports massage therapist and stretch coach. I focus mostly on individuals that are in sport with chronic pain or injury. I love to intuitively create and customize a session based on the individual that I'm working with. We'll go over a few postural assessments, work together to create a wellness journey based on the health history, past injuries, or anything still affecting you today. And we'll get you back on your feet right away with less pain.
We're about to stretch, and then we're gonna smoke, because we're gonna get on our stretch and smoke. If you want to feel as good as I look, then you need to come on down and get a stretch and smoke with none other than Smoky Vanilla.
Oh, yeah. Coming straight out of Austin, Texas, a land riddled with Delta 8 and dab sessions and spray pack flea markets. This multi-generational deadhead and dope dad decided to go against the grain. He hit the high road and ended up a top correspondent on the daily news show, blessing us all with his presence each week. Come to the stage, no other than Stone Slade.
Oh, thank you. Today, my story looks into the numbers of who's buying cannabis these days and why. A recent report from Numerator, a first-party consumer source data company, offers some illuminating insights into the behaviors and profiles of modern cannabis consumers. For investors eyeing the growing cannabis market, these findings are pure gold. So who exactly is using cannabis? According to Numerator's survey of nearly 6,000 current and past consumers of THC and CBD, there are some clear distinctions. THC consumers tend to be younger, primarily Gen Z and millennials, with a whopping 61% using cannabis daily or weekly. On the flip side, CBD users are generally older, with baby boomers making up the significant portion, and they tend to consume CBD less frequently, typically less than weekly. This age difference naturally translates into different spending habits. THC users are willing to shell out more money, spending between $26 and $100 monthly, which does seem a little low to me, whereas CBD users are more frugal, spending less than $25 a month. And it seems the younger crowd is more committed or perhaps more adventurous with their wallets. Now, why are people turning to cannabis? The report highlights stress relief, sleep, and pain management as the top reasons. Stress relief tops the list with 62% of THC users, while 57% of CBD users cite pain management as their primary reason. Adult social uses are more common among THC users, which isn't too surprising given its broader appeal for various activities. Now let's talk dollars and cents. Monthly spending on cannabis products shows a significant gap between THC and CBD users. As I said, nearly half of CBD users spend under $25 per month, in contrast to over half of THC users spend at least $50 or more, with a third exceeding $100. Now, this higher spending among THC users is likely influenced by their preference for licensed dispensaries, where 61% of them shop. Now, looking ahead, the future of cannabis consumption seems promising. The report suggests a stable or growing market with 83% of THC users maintaining or increasing their usage over the past year, and 89% expected to do so in the coming year. Similarly, 72% of CBD users maintained or increased their usage last year, with 85% planning to maintain or increase their usage in the future. Now, why does all this matter for markets and investors? The data from Numerator suggests that brands and investors should strategically target specific demographics with tailored products to maximize their market presence and optimize their sales strategies. Understanding who's buying what and why can help investors evaluate which companies are well positioned to capture market share and sustain growth. Now, when it comes to interpreting earning reports, this market information is invaluable. By cross-referencing earning data with consumer trends, investors can make more informed decisions. And identifying companies that meet current market demands can lead to smarter investments and better returns. So the next time you're pondering where to put your money, consider who's lighting up and why. This insightful data offers a clearer picture of the cannabis landscape, making it easier to see where the green is really going. Now, I would have liked to have seen a further breakdown in the numbers between male and female consumers, though I do feel that often the women are largely overlooked when it comes to cannabis marketing. With such nuanced data at our disposal, though, it is high time we paid attention to all the segments of the market. I'm Stone Slade, reporting for the High at 9 News.
Stone, this is just basic common sense to me, Stone.
Yeah.
I mean,
we report to more people than just us, though. You know,
I get it, but let's look at so I buy a CBD balm, okay, like a topical product, okay, and I buy an eighth of weed. Which one do you think I'm going to run out of sooner?
Oh, that eighth of weed.
100% that eighth of weed. That eighth of weed is going to be gone that day, and that topical jar is going to last, a week, 2 weeks, a whole month. And so I think that's really contributes more to this story.
Your situation.
I think that contributes more to this story is the fact of the length of lifespan of the product.
Well, you're comparing two completely different products too. Like, I mean, there's THC bombs out there too, and there's other consumable.
There's no
CBD
THC bombs out there. Stop it.
Yeah, bro.
Not like that. I mean, stop it.
You're not comparing it. What if you get some THC? What about your THC deposit suppositories? Huh? You probably only use one of those a week, so they last a lot longer.
Cute. Very different. That's funny. That was funny, Stone.
I'm sorry. Your Delta 8 suppository.
I bet. Yeah, it was funnier the first time.
Sorry. The best in the world.
But maybe the THC lube would be gone the fastest, I
mean,
that all depends on who you're with.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. This just goes more to what I said. There needs to be more numbers from the ladies. The ignored section.
I just don't think any of these categories are ever going to compete with flower category in regards because of the lifespan. Like your average consumer will smoke an eighth a week. Okay, and so let's just say you have a consumer like that, and then they're going to use a topical on like one part of their body, like their elbow or their knee or something like that, and that's going to be it. And so of course that jar is going to last them probably like 3 months. As opposed to that eighth of flower that only lasts them a week.
Yeah, but it's also more about just targeting which demographics you're going for, whether you're selling CBD or, this breaks it down to there's almost two completely separate categories in different age groups. So, you're one category, you're going to market your CBD stuff that they may have forever, and it's just, it shows you the numbers. And come on, man, what are you talking about?
Ways to segment it as well, because you could compare low dose users to high dose users. For example, when the low dose edibles came on the market and they had to be 5 or 10 milligrams per serving, versus the Prop 215 days where you could buy a 500 milligram cookie and what have you. The companies that, came out with their microdose, the teas and the little gummies, like I've seen and heard those numbers are nowhere near, again, the 100 milligram drinks or the high dose edibles that are on the market, which speaks to the fact that high dose consumers consume more frequently and more often. So they're obviously going to buy more. Whereas the low dose consumer, might only take that gummy, once a week, once a day if it's a sleep gummy. Again, just a lot of ways you could segment this. But the net is a lot of people are buying weed and more weed and enjoying weed, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That is true. More people are buying weed. That's good. Exactly right. Rico, seeing as how you're going to have to leave, do you want to introduce Elise going into the next story?
Oh, man, you guys. Prepare me for this.
I tell you, sorry. All of a sudden, when great ideas come up, you know what I mean? They're just spontaneous, Rico. If not, I
very,
can just
very spontaneous.
yeah,
All right,
bro.
so,
I love to be
off the
spontaneous.
top.
Yeah, there we go.
Shit, man. My good friend for many, 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 many years. She has Midwest roots, but she has spread love and beauty all around the world. And along with all of that has come cannabis education, spreading the good word, and destigmatization, normalization, and lots of dabs left and right. Elise McRoberts, the Hashanista. What you got for us?
That's what's up. Thank you, Rico. Thank you, guys. Happy to be here this morning, filling in for my Minnesota sister, Rochelle. And my story today is an interesting one because it involves a woman that I know personally, and I believe many of us do here at High at 9 News. And I think the beginning of this story might have been covered in the past. So
yes, I did.
Let me jump right into it.
I covered this story.
Is that true?
Yes, I covered this story originally. Yes, that's true.
Right on. And then I believe this was in Fox. I don't have the exact link, but you can find the story on High 9 News later. Victory for cannabis pioneer in ongoing sexual harassment lawsuit against Rohan, Marley, and cannabis brand Lion Order. Pioneering cannabis industry entrepreneur Chloe Villano has scored a major victory in her ongoing legal battle over sexual harassment allegations she has filed against Rohan Marley, the son of legendary musician and cultural icon Bob Marley, and Schafer Group, LLC, the owners of the emerging cannabis lifestyle brand Lion Order. In 2021, Villano, a respected figure in the cannabis sector, joined forces with Marley to launch Lion Order, a venture promising innovation and opportunity. However, what followed was a troubling ordeal of exploitation, harassment, and gender discrimination, culminating in Villano's wrongful termination and the denial of her rightful equity in the company. On June 6, 2023, Ms. Villano filed a lawsuit against Rohan Marley and the Schafer Group, LLC in the United States District Court for the Central District of California. Ms. Villano's complaint alleging claims for sexual harassment in violation of state and federal anti-discrimination laws. On August 4th, 2023, defendants filed a motion to dismiss Ms. Villano's complaint, alleging that Ms. Villano's case warrants immediate dismissal and should be dismissed for lack of personal jurisdiction, improper venue, and failure to state any plausible claim for relief. However, in an 18-page order issued on January 3rd, 2024, the Honorable Otis D. Wright II, United States District Judge, denied the key provisions of defendant's motion seeking to dismiss the plaintiff's sexual harassment claims and further denied defendant's request of the case transferred to Florida. The court's ruling sets the stage for plaintiff to move forward with her case and conduct discovery, including depositions of the defendant, Rohan Marley, and the other members of the Schafer Group.
Shashamani.
Thank you. How do I say it, Jason Beck?
Shashamani.
Yeah. Shashamani. I like that. Okay. In commenting on her victory, Ms. Villano opined, "I have experienced significant personal and professional losses due to the abuse, harassment, and discrimination I suffered at the hands of Rohan Marley and his associates. This legal battle is not just about one woman's struggle, but reflects a broader issue of women's treatment in the workplace, especially in male-dominated industries. In the upcoming trial, I seek justice for myself, but this case also represents a stand against the mistreatment of women in the workplace." Jury trial in this lawsuit is set for March 25th, 2025 in the United States District Court for the Central District of California. Ms. Villano's case is entitled Chloe Villano versus Schafer Group, LLC, and it just ends with a one-liner about the law firm. So that is the story. I do have to say that it feels definitely written like a press release, or it's clearly like one side dropping news. That said, I'm of the mindset of, believe women and support women. So, happy for Chloe to be able to move forward with her case. I don't have any inside info on this case, and I'm not close enough with Chloe to have an opinion one way or the other. But like I said, I try to, be of the mindset of believe women. But I think this will be interesting to see how it plays out, because one thing I think that is important to note is it is a, white woman against a man of color, and those cases statistically don't usually, end in favor of the defendant. So again, not saying one way or the other, but I think it's important to look at all the optics and also speak to the fact that I, of course, have experienced all types of harassment, discrimination, things go on, but I've worked in the music industry that goes on, and the cannabis industry it goes on, and hate to say it, but that's kind of how it goes in a patriarchal society in this country. So to that, I'm going to give it to the men on my panel, and let me know what you think about this. And once again, this is Elise McRoberts, the Hashanisa for High at 9 News. Thanks.
Well.
Thank you for covering this one, because I think it's the proper way to do it, and to hear this from a woman's point of view. Before hours, like on this one, like bottom line, like we weren't there, we don't know what happened, and gotta let it play out, and doesn't matter like what any of us and the relationships or the experiences we've had with either party here, gotta let this shit play out, man.
That's what the courts are for. And
I think discovery is going to be interesting. I've done lots of depositions in these kinds of cases, and that's where the rubber starts meeting the road. You get to size up the personalities of the folks that are involved, the witnesses, if you will, and dissect how dominating is the male influence in a business. How does it play out? What documents do they have? And hope there's no P. Diddy videos or shit like that shows up. It's going to get interesting, and I've got daughters, so I'm very mindful of misogynistic workplaces. I don't like it. I've also represented companies where they were alleged to have done something, and it turns out the complaining witness is a lying sack of shit. So I try to just give credence to everybody's allegations, and let's go ask some questions under oath where when I get a hold of someone in a deposition or on the witness stand, I can shake the shit out of them if we need to about their story, whether it's going to hold up or not. And I think the best thing to do is to stay neutral and recognize that sexual harassment does go on in the workplace, and don't poo-poo it. But no person gets a leg up just because they claim somebody did something. That's what this process is about. And they'll selectively leak shit out of this. You can bet on that. That comes from discovery, especially if it's bad for the other side. And it'll be a football that we're going to watch get kicked around here for a while.
Yeah, because the court of public opinion is real, Dale.
Oh, well, there's a whole other layer of making money off of this. Okay, it's the courts are one thing. P. Diddy's brand went to shit because the video showed up, okay? If things like that come out, the brands here could go to shit because women don't like to be mistreated in the workplace. If it turns out this woman's less than credible, then it could boost their brand. I don't know.
Look at
this is interesting because it's not just the male power structure, if you will, or it being the man in the company, but he's a celebrity as well, right? So I think that's that's a whole nother
not just element. Any celebrity. He's the son of Bob Marley.
Yeah.
I think it's the best way to do it. You guys saw how Cassie got attacked when she first came out with that lawsuit, and it does polarize people. But you just let the facts play out and respect her accusation, but also respect his claim that he's innocent. Right? Hopefully, the truth finds its way to the top here.
Yeah, and I'll tell you.
But what does innocence mean? That's the problem, because I've represented people in these situations, and in their mind, there's nothing wrong with their conduct. Okay. And right now we have a football going back and forth about what is a misogynist, what's toxic misogyny, what does that mean? And for people who don't understand they're a toxic misogynist, trying to talk to them is like trying to teach a pig to sing. And they don't recognize that everything comes out of their mouth is offensive to women. Okay, so there's a whole lot going into this, and we in our society have not figured out how women should be treated in the workplace.
Right.
Period.
Respect.
We just don't have it figured out. That's why this litigation keeps going on.
Yep. And I will tell you what, we are going to follow this story along throughout the whole process. So when there is another update, we will make sure to let you know. But Rico, we're doing pretty good on time, Rico.
Look at that, man.
We're doing pretty good on time. I got one more story, and I know you're going to love this, Rico. I know you got to go, but hold on. You got to hear the title, bro. You got to hear the title.
All right.
Okay.
Go ahead.
All right. You're gonna love the title. Years after the state confiscated his warehouse, this Rhode Island cannabis grower is getting back. Almost 7 years after police raided his Putnam Pike marijuana grow, and the state swooped in to confiscate his warehouse and everything inside it, including 15 5-gallon buckets. Joseph Ritchie is getting it all back in a protracted case in which the former licensed marijuana grower contends the police lied about having a confidential informant to gain a search warrant, and then last year destroyed some seized marijuana that could have supported his defense. The state has agreed to settle the property confiscation aspect of the lawsuit. Ricky's separate federal lawsuit alleging the police search was illegal and a violation of his constitutional rights remains pending in U.S. District Court. No culpability or liability for either party in Settlement A provision in the property settlement agreement stipulates, in quotes, "This is a compromise reached by the parties of this dispute claim or this claim only, and no inference to either party's culpability or liability may be drawn from this compromise in any way or for any purpose," end quote. The agreement is signed by Assistant Attorney General Linda L. Barr and Ritchie's lawyer, Megan E. Sheehan. Both Sheehan and Ricky declined comment on the settlement, as did the Office of the Attorney General, Peter Naroa. In earlier court documents, Sheehan described Ricky as a contractor and a licensed medical marijuana patient who served as a caregiver for 2 other patients. He grew marijuana at his warehouse at 256 Putnam Pike, where he also ran his business, Custom Construction LLC. In September 2017, Ricky's complaint says the Smithfield police received an unverified tip from a first-time confidential informant that Ricky was selling marijuana out of his grow. On October 23, 2017, police raided the warehouse, seizing 42 marijuana plants, individual bags of marijuana weighing over 1 kilogram, and all the equipment Ricky used to run his contracting business. The police charged Ricky with a possession with intent to deliver and possession of 1 to 5 kilograms of marijuana. The drug charges were eventually dismissed. Back in May of 2019, Ricky pleaded no contest to a misdemeanor charge for visiting a common nuisance. And last year, Ricky told the Journal in an interview that he pleaded to the misdemeanor charge because he wanted to put the episode behind him. He received a filing, meaning his record would be expunged if he remained law-abiding for a year, but by then the state attorney general's office had already moved to seize his property through civil forfeiture, contending it had been used to violate state drug laws. Alleged lies about a confidential informant, Ricky's current lawyer, Sheehan, has argued in federal court that his arrest, the raid, and the confiscation of his property were all illegal because police lied about having a confidential informant that supported the request for a search warrant. U.S. District Judge Mary S. McElroy wrote in a pretrial ruling last summer that there was, in quotes, strong interference supporting Sheehan's claim. She noted that when placed under oath, police officer Joseph M. Marsalo denied having any personal contact with an informant, despite saying in his affidavit for the search warrant that he had received information from such person. In a quote, "What adds to the strength of the inference of fabrication, however," wrote McElroy, "is the failure of the Smithfield police to find any written documentation in the form of any notations or file entries or other memorialization that anyone in the department had contact with the putative informant." Evidence destroyed in the case. That's right. In February of this year, Sheehan leveled another allegation against the Smithfield Police Department that as late as last year, it had destroyed some of the marijuana they had confiscated from Ricky's warehouse and were holding as evidence as he challenged their allegation. He was growing more than allowed as his medical patient and caregiver's allotments. There is, in quotes, "There is no reason the evidence should have been destroyed 6 years into a pending civil forfeiture case and 3 years into a pending case, when at the heart of both the town and state's arguments are the destroyed evidence proved that Mr. Ricky was over the possession limits, Sheehan continued. In an email exchange last August with Sheehan that is included in court documents, lawyer Ryan D. Stays, representing Smithfield, acknowledged that some of the held marijuana had been destroyed. In a quote, "It is my understanding," wrote Stiles, "that the marijuana has been destroyed and it was subject to a criminal prosecution in which your client pled and the case has been closed out." Stiles did not immediately return an email or phone call at his office seeking comment for this story, you guys. Well, I guess it sounds like you guys get to chalk it up one for the good guys today in regards with this story, and I can't wait to hear what all of y'all have to say about this.
Well, as we talked about in my story, part of this got settled. I don't know that it's off the books, but I'm sure there's non-disclosures in there. There was no admission of liability. That seems to have been for some of the real property. They threatened to go after asset forfeiture of property here. I'm hoping that got settled. The other issue about what happens when they seize your weed and they give it back to you in 7 years and it's trash. I mean, what happened to that? Well, they destroyed some of it. Well, after 6 months or a year, it ain't worth the shit anyway. So you get damages for that. And if no one admits they're liable, I suspect someone will try to resolve this, although I'd like to see some of these get a ruling of what obligations you have when you take property like that that could spoil or decompose.
You know what I wonder?
While you're holding it.
You know what I really wonder, Dale? If this evidence that was disposed of, if it was disposed of around the holiday season, and I wonder if it just contributed to some people's holiday parties.
Well, invading an evidence room and stealing drugs is not a brand new concept.
Just saying.
Oh, I don't know. And that's problem with the chain of evidence here. And the focus has always been on, we're going to throw you in jail and you do everything you can to stay out of jail. But then they go after your assets. And that's a excessive fine of the Eighth Amendment argument that for weed that was arguably lawful, would they take your whole warehouse worth millions of bucks? I think that's a problem under the excessive fine section. But what's the value of personal property they take that spoils and gets ruined? That still is an ongoing question. I'd like to see someone make a determination of what obligations a governmental entity has when they take something like this and set on it for 6 years and here, give you back a bag of shit that you can't do anything with anyway.
Yep, I heard that. Any thoughts on this, Stone, fashionista?
I think it's interesting that cannabis is probably one of the only things of value that they can seize that has a shelf life, right? Because everything else wouldn't, the timeline wouldn't matter, like
if they seize a bunch of bricks of cocaine, that's going to stay good for a while, a lot longer shelf life.
So
you would hope.
Any thoughts, Stone?
Anytime we can chalk up one for the good guys, I'm on board. Let's be happy.
Right. I thought we started off with a good story. We end on a good story for you guys. It's Thursday. It's almost Friday. You know what I mean? And on some other good news, we do want to congratulate Mr. Elliot Lewis, Catalyst, who is currently fighting the state of California in a excise case for all of the cannabis industry out here. Yes, and he was just awarded a state order where the state was trying to transfer the case to Sacramento to have it heard by a new judge up there, but the case was originally filed in Orange County and they won their stay, so the case is going to be heard in Orange County, where they do believe that they will get a more fair trial. So congratulations to them. That ended on some good news all the way around. Yes, and yes. And Rico's gone, man. We almost did it, you guys. We almost ended on time. But
so close.
It's so close. That's right. It's just like that little fishing thing, huh, Stone? Just
Gotta be quicker than that.
Yes. Oh yeah. Thank you all for joining us and getting high at 9 with us every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific and high noon on the East Coast. Big thank you to our audience and supporters for tuning in daily and listening to the insanity that is the developing cannabis industry. Huge thank you to all of our sponsors: Catalyst, Novice, Zem Brands, Stretch and Smoke, and all of you others as well. And Cloud Media Partners keeping the lights on. Adam Teehee in the back, feathering his hair. That's right. And thank you all for tuning in, spending your time with us on this Thursday morning, afternoon, wherever you are in the world. And if you're out there in Europe, London, it is the evening. Yes, and thank you all for getting high at 9 with us. We are America's #1 daily cannabis news show.